About 1 in 50 people will have epilepsy at some point in their life. Epilepsy can affect anyone and is commonly diagnosed in most people when under the age of 20 or over the age of 60.
In hospitals, we tend to concentrate on treating the disease rather than finding out where it actually came from. For some people, it can come from maybe after an injury or an accident, or it can come from, it can be something that's genetic, so it comes down from the family. It depends on the type of epilepsy.
Well, I was 10 when I first got epilepsy. Well, when I first had my first fit. I was in school, I was at the computer. I told the teacher I couldn't look at the screen any longer. It was really bothering my eyes, but she didn't listen. She was just telling me to get along with it, get on with the work, and ignoring me.
It is a neurological condition which affects the brain and sometimes the body. Seizures occur when there is a sudden interruption within the normal functionality of the brain. The effect is variable and unique to every person, affecting them in different ways. Flashing lights trigger 5% of epileptic cases. This is known as photosensitive epilepsy.
Anyway, I dropped my pencil and I went to the ground to pick it up. And after that, I didn't know what happened, but my friend did tell me that I started smacking my head on the bottom of the table. They pulled me away, my eyes had rolled back. So they put me onto the floor, called the paramedics, was taken into hospital, but I still wasn't diagnosed with epilepsy. The hospital itself didn't know what it was. Kept me there for 8 hours, didn't let me eat or drink, and that was it. Then after about 8 hours, they let me go home without any reasoning to what had happened to me, nothing. Then that was it, nothing happened for another year, and then I had another fit, and this continued for 4 years.
Although epilepsy is a common condition, especially within the younger generation, it can be an increasingly difficult condition to live with when living as a young person in one of the busiest cities in the world.
Every year I'd have a fit, but they told me I was epileptic by then, but I wasn't put on any medication, wasn't seen regularly, nothing was done about it. So I myself had to go privately to the hospital for medication. My neurologist, who's amazing, he's very, very good. He took me under his NHS because he thought I was too young to be paying privately, and he started treating me, and I was put on Epilim, 3 tablets a day, which is quite annoying because it makes you put on weight. At 16, when you're 16 years old and you're put on weight, like you're putting on weight because of your medication, it can be very depressing. So when I did put on weight, it was in the space of 6 months. I put on 2 sizes and I got very depressed and I refused to leave the house. So I went back to a neurologist. There was not much he could do about it. So then I stopped taking 3 tablets and started taking 1 myself, which wasn't the most wisest thing to do, but I lost weight, which helped.
Epilepsy tends to be classed either by where it originates in the brain. So you can have temporal lobe epilepsy, frontal lobe epilepsy, occipital lobe epilepsy, or you can class it according to people that found the disease, or you can class it according to when it tends to occur. So you have the juvenile epilepsy, whereas you can have temporal lobe epilepsy. Temporal lobe epilepsy can also be called partial lobe epilepsy, which is then describing according to the symptoms that people get. So with most diseases of the nervous system, there's not just one name. It just tends to be, some people define it by where it comes from, some people define it by the person who discovered it, some people define it by the symptoms that you get.
London is home to over 7.5 million people. Yet despite its population, when living in the capital with a condition like epilepsy, it can be incredibly lonely.
I do think sometimes when you overthink a situation, especially with epilepsy because you're constantly thinking about it, I think if I keep thinking about it I might end up having a fit because I'm stressing myself out. And stress does affect it. So if I'm stressing myself out, what if I end up having a fit? And I don't want to do that. And like, as I said, one of my cousins, she was epileptic, and she was so outgoing, very bubbly. And when epilepsy got worse, she shut herself away. She got scared because every time she'd come out from a night out, she'd have a fit. And she really, in her last few years before she passed away, she really, really locked herself away from everything, and I don't want to do that because I see it as I want to enjoy myself as much as I can. You never know, nobody knows.
Typical case that you get, okay, someone is, let's say for example, someone's walking down the road, they have a fall and they collapse for about 1 or 2 minutes. The question about that is what actually happened during that 1 or 2 minutes. Was it a seizure? Was it a heart problem? Is there something else that's underlying? So whichever, the A&E could then, the doctor at A&E could then refer them to our department. When they come to our department, we'll do a test. What we do is put a set of about 25 electrodes on their head. Each electrode records about a radius of I think 2 centimeters. So what we're measuring is the neuronal activity from one electrode to the next, and from that we can basically measure how fast it's working. And the theory is that people that are epileptic, or not a theory, but the fact is that people that are epileptic tend to have faster waves than other people. So we can basically measure it and try and see which part of the brain is overfiring, so it's to say. And what you're saying about the other treatment, one interesting thing that you get is people that have non-epileptic seizures, or people that have seizures and it's more of a psychiatry problem than an actual organic problem, shall we say. So for something like that, if you were to record the brain, you can't fake your brain overfiring or anything like that. So we can pick it up and just tell that your brain's working normal, or it could be something else. Someone could have a brain tumor, or they can have a cardiac problem, as I said. So you can literally record and see whether there are any changes. Something to note about the EEG test. The EEG test records on real time. So it's literally, we're taking a 20-minute to a 30-minute recording in real time. So just because the EEG test is normal, it does not mean that the person is not epileptic. It does not mean that the person is has non-epileptic seizures or anything like that. It just means that at the time we did not pick anything up. Rather than if you do it and you pick something up, then you're quite sure that this is what it is. So it's one of those tests that are quite, it's not like a blood test where you know you've got a positive or a negative. It's very subjective.